Hello there, everyone. This is Jenni Walk from L for the Room Consulting, and I have Kylie Mowbray Allen from Hello Media, and you're tuning into Bite Size Business, the live podcast show that helps small business owners gain clarity, and insight to grow their dream business. How are you this morning, Kylie?
Great, Jenni, and so excited to see you here this morning, and so pumped that you're off on Monday for your big trip.
I know. I'm away. We had 2 weeks of our business trip to the States. We're very, very excited. Looking forward to it, actually. Very excited.
Absolutely. So the business part of it, what will you be doing?
So we've got a couple of conversations in New York next week because we really want to launch our coaching program into the US. And so we're looking at potentially having an event there next year. So we're going to just catch up with a colleague of mine that I know from Australia about maybe running an event in New York. And then we've got a conference in New Orleans, the National Minority Supplier Development Council of the US conference in New Orleans for a week. So we're very, very excited.
Amazing. Is your partner pumped?
He is incredibly excited. Yeah, he's the official bag carrier and keeper of us while we travel. So we're really looking forward to having him. And it's his first overseas trip. So, really excited to be able to go away and have this trip with him.
I'm almost more excited about his adventure than yours. Just like,
no, yeah.
What an amazing opportunity.
Oh, I know. And it's so cute. It's like, what do you want to do in New York? It's like, I want to have a hot dog.
Yeah.
And I want to eat at a diner, and I want to go to, there's a couple of really amazing bakeries, obviously, that we need to go to, like Levian Bakery and Magnolia Bakery. But he doesn't like to line up. So I'm not sure how that's going to go, because every time when I went there last time, we walked past twice and the line was ridiculous. So I'm not sure how that's going to go, but it will be amazing.
There are some really cool YouTube channels. We watch them quite regularly, all about best secret food spots in New York. Ooh. Best pastrami sandwich, best this, and they do they'll go to their favorite 5, and there'll be like one that's just tiny and no one knows about it, but it's just full of locals and all of that. So you could spend the weekend YouTubing.
We might be doing that, actually, and we've been excited by there's a great show called Somebody Feed Phil on Netflix by Phil Rosenthal, the guy who developed Everybody Loves Raymond, and he just spends a week in a different state or country, and he's done New York and New Orleans as a show. So, and he goes to like those backwater places that no one knows. And so we're like, yep, we're definitely going to go and try the ones that he suggested as well, just for a bit of fun. We're there for a week. We've got plenty of time.
Oh, that's so cool. So fun. I've actually never been to New York.
I love it. I haven't been for a very long time. So I think the last time I went was 2015. So it's been a while, but I love the city. It's such a beautiful, beautiful city. And I did New Orleans in 2016. So I have had a couple of trips over there, but looking forward to rediscovering it with Michael.
Oh, how fun. Well, I'm very excited for you, Jenni. We have a couple of guest speakers, or guests, I should call them, lined up for while you're away. So yeah, I'm super pumped.
I always get jealous about the amazing people who come and talk when I'm not here. I'm like, I want to be there for that.
Well, what time will it be when you're over there? You might just be able to tune in and join us, Jenni.
Maybe I will. I don't actually know. It's a really good question. What time is it now in New York? I should ask Siri that. But in New York right now, actually, it's 6:30 p.m. It's a doable conversation for a Thursday night at 6:30 p.m.
Wow.
Maybe I'll just drop in and just like come in and podcast bomb.
Yeah, that'd be so good. We would love to have you, Jenni, as always. So today is an exciting topic. We're talking about integrating social good into your business. So how to set your brand apart and let it shine by showing that your company exists not just to make money, but to help solve a problem and create a better society. So one thing I love working with clients on is how to write your USP. That's not just your USP for your whole business, but even for every product or every service, you can write a separate USP, and it really can help show how you shine. So I thought we could chat about not only some businesses that we know doing an extraordinary job of that, but also I think a lot of businesses don't even know that they're doing social good. So showing how they can actually do that, find what they're doing and shine that light, but also other places where you can actually get involved in to help with that. So I'll give you an example. many years ago when I had my e-commerce business, Rainbows and Clover, I was a member of the B1G1, which is buy one, give one. It's an extraordinary organization. And basically what I really like about it is that, say I sold a TP, I don't have a dollar amount that goes to wherever it is that I'm donating through B1G1. I actually choose a number of points, I think, from memory, whatever it is anyway, or it's impacts. I'm choosing a number of impacts of where it would hit. So for every TP sold, I would then choose X number, and then it might build a toilet in a particular country. Or I would choose, so you go onto the B1 website, B1G1 website, and you choose what sort of places you want to donate to. So because my business was all fair trade manufacturing, Nepal, India, and a couple of other places, I really just wanted to donate back to those kind of countries, or those countries that I was working with. Plus I wanted it to be women, and I wanted it to be to do with children. But there's literally zillions of choices out there that you can get involved in. And then you put the widget on your website and you show people while they're on your site shopping what you're actually doing and what you've been able to do and what kind of an impact you've made. It's extraordinary. And I love that it wasn't about a dollar amount. It was about the choice where you're going to be supporting. So I thought that was cool, because I have heard that sometimes when you're online buying something and then it says there 10% of this product is going to go to this, blah, blah, blah. And then people can get annoyed and go, actually, I'd rather have the product for cheaper, thanks very much, because I do my own donations elsewhere. So that can often have not so much of a positive effect, but sometimes quite negative. So coming up with being with an organization such as B1G1 or something can really help with turning that around, which is cool. And then another one, the one that I've been involved with for years and still am, is Kiva. So again, I choose where I am. That's all about loans. So you're giving them loans, and I just keep reinvesting that money that I have put out as loans. And I always choose women-led businesses. And anyway, so that's pretty extraordinary. So Kiva is Kiva, and it's really easy to get involved with. And each year I just up the money a little bit more, and it feels awesome. So how about you, Jenni? What do you know of in places like that?
Before we talk about what I'm doing, if I take a step back, I think the key thing to remember is when we're talking about social good or business for good, it's recognizing the downstream impact of the work you're doing. So you don't have to just say, I'm going to do a B1G1 or Kiva. Our organization has just started sponsoring a Yallery student we've committed for 6 years to sponsor a student to go through university. So there's a dollar amount, but that's a choice that sits outside a particular product. It's just a business choice. So that's how we're choosing to do good in that space. But it's actually looking at what is the impact of the product or service that you're selling. And it's not just about what you're selling. It might be what your suppliers are doing. So you being a fair trade organization, having fair trade products, by virtue of purchasing that product, you're creating social good. So because you're doing fair trade, and by virtue of having a fair trade business, then it actually provides that economic development sustainability for your supply chain as well, not just for you or your customers. And so when we're thinking of this kind of social good concept or social procurement, if you're talking in a corporate sense, they talk about social procurement. What it's looking at is, who are you as a business and how are you supporting your broader economy or your broader social community? So I know we've got a couple of amazing business owners that you and I both know, particularly in your Passionate Purpose Women group, who are women-led organic products, for example. So being a female-led organization is still a minority. It's increasing significantly, but by being a female-led company providing an organic product, that in itself is attractive to corporates or to customers. So if you're a tourism company, if you're looking for goodies for your hotel, all those sort of things, they're looking for that unique product that they can then put in their hotel, so they can say, we're supporting social good. And so that's the key piece here, is saying it's not just about having to spend extra money. It's about choosing where you spend your money wisely, because if you do that, others will do the same for you. And that's how you can get this kind of promotion. And that's essentially how Indigenous procurement came around, because there was a lot of and women-led businesses and social procurement. Oh, it's a women-led business, or it's a business from someone who's got a disability, or it's an Indigenous business. Are they going to be riskier? Are they going to be able to deliver? And all those kind of unconscious bias, and sometimes very conscious bias, come up, right? But now we're saying, those businesses, all these people that sit in this space are actually amazing businesses who happen to have a value that you can actually leverage yourself. So I just want to reframe. So it's not just about having to spend more money. I love B1G1. When I saw B1G1 several years ago, one of my old clients has been a member of B1G1 for many, many years relating to education. And we were looking to do something similar here in Australia, because while we're buying toilets overseas with B1G1, there are communities in Northern Territory who haven't had clean drinking water for 3 years. So, let's maybe spend some of that money in Australia, B1G1. I know it's a Singapore-based organization. It's a great organization, but looking at how we can do good at home. So I think that's the key thing. You do amazing work because you're helping small business owners get visible and grow and that's a segment that a lot of business coaches don't want to play in. They don't want to play in that small or micro business level because it's hard work. You don't get the volume and all those kind of things that coaches and consulting houses want to get, but we make a choice because we know that's where we're going to have, as you said, the greatest impact.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? And I really think that's so important that you raise that you're doing an incredible job as a business, and you just happen to also be doing more for the greater good or more for social good, etc. So it's not about setting out necessarily to do that in the first place, which is great. Yeah. Interesting you mentioned that about Australia and B1G1, because it's the first thing I brought up with them. So how could I actually support Australian communities here? And they said, we're working on it. So because I haven't been involved with them for at least 4 years now, I actually don't know if they did go down that road, which would have been, hopefully it's that they did that, which would be super awesome.
Yeah.
And I noticed that there's quite a few organizations like that. They're not doing stuff at home, which is really where, we would like to go first. So for me, I would have liked to have chosen the same countries as my fair trade manufacturing and something here in Australia too. Yeah. So
yeah, and I think that back in the day it was such a to do anything in terms of social good was very kind of new. And we're talking a decade ago, no one really talked about social procurement. No one really talked about social good or social impact. And one of the reasons I really wanted to get involved in the B Corp and the B Lab arrangement here in Australia and across and globally is because they're looking to change the way business, the broad ecosystem of businesses, and say, actually, if you actively and intentionally choose to organize your business in a way that is positive and proactive and has a social impact, or you're consciously making decisions around environment, social good, how you serve your customers, where you source your products, all those things, if every business did even one of those things, it will have a massive impact, not only on climate change, not only on social and economic development, but on the broad economy, because people will spend more money in that space because they'll have more money to spend because of the impact that they're creating.
Absolutely. I love that. And look what you're doing. Maybe share with everyone again about what your company is.
Yeah, so we do a kind of a range of stuff. Like we do as a business coaching company, we do low bono and pro bono work, but at the small end of the scale. But at the larger end of the scale, we're working with organizations to help influence the way that they purchase and see purchasing from social procurement businesses, and recognizing that supplier diversity, which is generally the term that's used for all kind of aspects of social procurement or Indigenous businesses or women-led disadvantaged businesses. The advantage of changing policy at the corporate level is that they have such big buying power, and they have the opportunity to grow businesses really quickly. And so being able to not only have a micro business that can scale quickly because of an opportunity for a contract, so helping educate corporates on how they can shift the narrative internally around what procurement is and how to de-risk some of these smaller businesses is something that I love to do. But then with the B Impact Collective and the work that I do with that, it's really around helping companies become certified in the B Corp structure. So the B Corp model, looking at the 5 core areas, of workers, governance, community, environment, and customers, we look at how do we actually create intentional business models that support one or two of those areas. So it might be a design to give model, like you've seen with Who Gives a Crap? Who Gives a Crap, who's actually intentionally set up their business that 50% of their products go to help develop clean drinking water. So whatever product you purchase from Who Gives a Crap, that is an intentional business model. It's not a byproduct of what they're doing. It's how they've designed the business. And what's so cool is it's becoming so much more accessible to choose things in an intentional way that's going to have that outcome that doesn't impact your profits, doesn't impact your success, and in fact, probably boost both of them, because you're talking to people and helping them solve a problem that they can't solve, but they want to be able to be part of the solution.
Absolutely. So when we look at what we can do that are just little things, even not even us as business owners, but us as humans trying to make things just a little bit better in the world. So obviously it's things like choosing how you buy, where you buy, which product that you choose.
Yep.
Are you going to choose caged eggs, or are you going to, or, you know, caged chickens and buy those eggs, or are you going to go for free range and organic? So we're looking at not just how humans and how the environment are, but also how the animals are raised. Like, there's so many different aspects of it for doing better for us all in the world to make better choices.
Yep.
I'd just like to give a little example of where people can actually make a difference. So I saw something on Instagram this morning. Someone was doing an Instagram live, and she was talking about her outfit, and she's quite well known in the business space, you know, really out there doing super well. And she was modeling an outfit that she said, I'm so happy with my outfit. Everything you see from top to bottom was less than $50 because I got the whole lot from. No, I was like, what? You're someone that can really be like, people are listening to you. You're in a way kind of an influencer. You could actually be talking about local brands. You could be talking about maybe Australian made, or maybe fair trade, or not necessarily lining the pockets of big giant corporation like Kmart. That's not necessarily, I'm certainly not saying they're not, but they're certainly not necessarily making it in a very ethical way.
Yeah,
so
and it's a really good point, and I hadn't actually thought of that, because I from one side you're looking at saying that you can show up in a way without spending a lot of money, which is really good for people who want to feel confident and capture that piece. But you are correct, if you have that influence and that opportunity, choosing options. I mean, it's silly as still things like the earrings that I wear. I choose to. There's two companies that I purchase most of my earrings from. One of them is a local Brisbane lady who produces. They're both Brisbane based. One is an Indigenous woman, one is not an Indigenous woman. So they're very similar styles, but also very different. And I choose those ones because they're female-owned, female-led businesses making here that artisan style here in Brisbane, and I get to support my economy here. So that's an absolute choice, rather than going to another, you know, chain to buy earrings. I prefer to support locally. So I completely agree with that idea. There's that small things that you can do to really influence.
And the fact that you've just mentioned that's gold. That's absolute gold to anyone listening. It's like, oh, you know what? I hadn't even thought about that. So I think so often it's our role to help educate. So, and let people know, because there is a different way that we can do things. And so for example, a small one is that we like to eat locally at this restaurant called Stockpot. Now, why we love them is because they used to be in our little town. Now they're a little bit further away. But when you would walk in, there's a big map with pins in it showing you everything you're about to eat, where it's grown locally. So I knew that those vegetables were from that farm up the road, etc. And that to me is a business doing extraordinary social good for the local farmers and the local growers, and of course local employment and everything else too. So they wouldn't even really realize that they're a business doing incredible social good. They're not raving about it on their website or anything, but they're doing it. So finding a way to actually share that, because then that inspires other local business owners, that restaurants or whatever, that perhaps they could do that too, and shift a few of those choices that they're making of where they're buying from.
And I completely agree with you. And sometimes it's not about the promotion. It might be just, you know, and this is where you talk a lot about doing blogs and the importance of sharing information through resources and blogs and other things. But I can imagine that company doing a post on their website or the socials saying, hey, this is what we do. This is how we operate. And if you want to get involved in this, come and have a chat. Let's have a coffee and we'll talk to you how. So their social good doesn't have to just be in the delivery of that service. It could be educating, as you said, other business owners on how to do it, having a conversation with them, you know, providing the secret sauce on why it's worked for them, because they're not going to be competing against that other person. If they're in, if they're doing a 125-kilometer radius, find a company that's at 126 kilometers and support them going the other direction, right? So there's so many cool ways that you can build that economy. And I love that but we don't think about it, right? They've just made the choice to do things easily, low carbon, better for the environment, all those things. And as a result, it has a profound impact on the way that we engage with them. And that's that promotion piece that we don't often think about.
And I'd like to talk about the disability space, because it's one that I've really resisted sharing much about. But I then got to remember, so as you know, my husband's a quadriplegic, so I have been a full-time carer for 15 years now, and my daughter is a carer for him, and he has also paid carers. So it's been a lot of juggling. When he first got injured, I just thought, oh my goodness, I'm never going to be able to work. I won't be able to work again, because in my experience and what I was hearing, most quad wives just they couldn't. But I also realized there's no way I can't, because I love what I do, et cetera, et cetera. However, what I've learned along the way is that I didn't want to be sharing too much of our story behind the scenes. I want to be respectful to him and how much is shared, etc. But also it feels nice to have just a little bit of anonymity in some way, because there was a lot of stuff about us when it all first happened in the press and things. So anyway, to cut a long story short, I really have recognized recently that by sharing snippets of that story, it inspires perhaps other women out there with husbands with disabilities, or just people out there that are having challenging times as a carer or something, and for them to know actually it is possible. It really is, because back then when my husband had his accident, there was no one for me to look at and go, you know what, I actually can do this. I can be a mum, I can be a carer, and I can have my own business too.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think it's almost that I have to do it, that I have to share that from time to time. Yeah, it's something that I should do.
Well, we forget the value of role modeling, right? And this is a big conversation that we have, particularly in the Indigenous business space, is that for most people in an Indigenous space, they haven't had access or exposure in the past to business, right? We were shut out of businesses for so long that there was kind of like, there's a bit of trepidation about becoming a business owner, and the stereotypes and the bias that was around, and essentially racism around Indigenous businesses. Whereas now it's becoming far more popular, more prominent. And when we can stand up as an Indigenous business and say we're successful and doing really well, it role models not only to other Indigenous peoples, but to companies who traditionally had that unconscious bias, that they can start working with us and we're not riskier, and all those things that they think. We start to change that. And that's the same in the disability space. And I completely agree with you there. It's one of those demystifying that, we're just humans who have a slightly different view of the world to you. Our experience is different, but that doesn't devalue or change our ability or capability to be able to support you. And so often, and that's why things like Endeavour Foundation and so many of the organizations that work with people with disabilities are so important, because they're providing opportunity that was traditionally not available to them. And this is when we, as you say, when you start telling the story, you role model, you encourage, and somebody goes, oh, I didn't know that. I'm actually going to look into that, or I didn't know that, or it challenges their own thinking about and their views and beliefs around that particular group. So it's so important, as you said. I mean, back in the day, fair trade was automatically, you said fair trade and people said really expensive, right? That was a given. But now, and then Oxfam came about and showed you that you can do fair trade, and the Oxfam stores showed that fair trade doesn't have to be exorbitantly priced, and it's accessible for everyone. So now people are like, oh, I can do this fair trade thing. Same with silly things like, free range eggs. Back in the day, free range eggs were a dozen, $12 for a dozen. And now it's becoming the way people operate. So the one thing I love about the B Corp and the work that you do, particularly in the space you are, is what it's doing is it's changing the narrative and demonstrating to people that you can do good through your business, and it doesn't make you less profitable, doesn't make you more risky. What it does is it actually makes it accessible, and it makes a shift and fundamentally starts to change the way businesses operate. And ultimately that's what we want, right? We want more productive, more beneficial and socially beneficial businesses that are going to be around forever, not just, to make short-term profits.
Absolutely, I totally agree. I wonder if our next topic, Jenny, should be, so clearly in 3 weeks' time when you're back, but talking about that USP, talking about how we set up that message so that we can be including what we're doing that's good or for the greater good, but also not taking away or not trying to I think in a way I don't want to just be constantly putting up my hand and going, well, what about this or what about that? Like
No.
doing it in a really subtle way, perhaps. So yeah, what do you think about that?
I think that would be amazing. I know we were supposed to talk a little bit about branding ourselves today and positioning ourselves in the conversation, but I think this is all part of it. So having people think about what they're doing and their downstream impact and the changes they can make. And then definitely, how do you set that apart from your other companies so it doesn't look twee, it doesn't look overly marketed. And I guess the really good example, if I can use in terms of marketing and USPs, is Apple's Red products. So I don't know if people are aware that Apple has a range of products, and I've spoken to people recently who didn't know they have a series of products called the Red product. They don't openly advertise it, but if you go to their website and you're going to buy an iPhone or any kind of device, it gives you the option to buy a Red product. And the Red products are actually products who they're only available in Red. They're all the same as everything else, but there's a Red product. Then and a portion of that profit goes to AIDS research still. So having that Red product, what they've done is said, we're not going to shout it. We're not going to be on when you go to the webpage, it's not the first thing that you see. It's probably not even the fifth thing you see if you go to the Apple webpage or even if you go into their store. But what they're saying is there's a product here. And if you want to spend your money somewhere and you're going to spend it anyway, then you want to add a little bit of value to it, buy over here. And that's where I think they're very clever about how they've positioned that product and the uniqueness of that product when essentially it's just a Red phone. There's nothing fundamentally different with it, but they've decided to say, but if you buy that Red phone, you're telling the world you want to support that particular foundation, that particular work. And I think that is so clever. And so I think when people go, oh, I need a USP or I need to market it, they get scared that they have to be showy. Like you said, I don't want to be standing up there going, aren't I amazing? Look at the amazing work I'm doing. Because that just doesn't feel genuine to anybody.
Exactly. I totally agree. And I think that's so awesome what they've been doing with that. And that reminds me of a client of mine, Nick, who is all about period underwear, but only for tweens and teens. So very, very good with her niching there. And she has this product on her website called Kindness Socks. And they're only $5 and they're super cute. The little white anklets with a little red heart on the back. And those, when you buy those Kindness Socks, 100% of that money goes to a charity that's all about for girls and for, not for girls, sorry, for women in general, to get them period products when they are on the streets, for example. So yeah, little things like that. And then I just suddenly realized when you're talking about Apple, and I thought, yeah, there's hardly a mention about it. Every now and then there'll be a little thing, and then she'll have a flurry of Kindness Socks sell. But yeah, it's really important to get it out there, but without feeling like you're trying to just constantly, yeah, it's a really interesting thing, isn't it? But I think one thing that we can all do as a challenge that I'll put out there for everyone for the next few weeks till Jenni and I meet again, which is think about what are the things you're already doing? What are the things that you as a company are already doing, but you're actually not letting people know? And so you may not even be recognizing how actually awesome they are for the greater good. So how about you start thinking about those things, and the next time we come together and we work out how we might actually message that and position that and add that into the way we share the story about us as a brand.
I think it's a great challenge. And when you're doing that challenge, ask yourself also, what am I doing? But who do I want to tell about that story? Is it everybody, or is it the clients that I'm already working with? Because it may not be everybody, it might be, but once you start working with someone, you might be like, hey, by the way, I have like Nick, hey, by the way, I have Kindness Socks. You're not going to go and tell everyone you've got Kindness Socks if you've never worked with them before, but you might, once somebody's purchasing their products every 3 months or every 6 months, they might just add that into their cart as a little extra, and you want to tell. So what are you doing differently? I love as a challenge for the next 2 weeks. And who do you want to tell?
Absolutely. And how do you want to do it? So I'll give you an example. On our website, we have one page there that has been really one of our top performing pages for years now. And it's called The Why and What of Us. And it basically lists all the things that we're for and against. So I had no idea when I wrote it that it was going to be such a unicorn performer. Like, it's quite extraordinary. And what's so interesting about it is I'm pretty much saying I'm a the opposite to everybody else out there doing what I do. So I'm against the hustle, for example, and against just doing it for the money. So yeah, it's an interesting page. So if you can have a little look at it, it's hellomedia.team, and then just go to the more section and choose the why and what of us. So it's not an about page, it's not an anything else, it's just me sharing the ethos behind our company. So worth having a little look and thinking, how might you do something similar to put your message across? That so that's not a USP, but it's just a way of putting your message out there in a very, very subtle way.
Yeah, I think it is a great page, because it does, and that keyword you use there is the ethos. It's the intentional choices you're making about how you want to show up in your business. And so by having it there and telling everybody, it's also it's not necessarily USP, but it's definitely going to say, if you like what I'm saying here, then come and work with me. But if this is not you, then I don't want to talk to you. And that is perfectly okay. You're allowed to say no to customers. I know people they don't like to say no to customers. Like, I have to take everyone, but you don't. And I think at the end of the day, particularly in the work that you and I do, it's about alignment of values that allow us to want to come to work every day and enable us to come to work every day. It's that alignment and having somebody who listens to that. So I love that for you. And please, and I think the girls I'll definitely put that link on the stream on Facebook and the socials, and make sure you check that link out. It's a really good post, an example of actually how you're setting yourself apart.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Jenni, you have a most fabulous and glorious trip. And in the meantime, though, how can people find you, particularly if you're going to be posting about it on your socials? How can everybody find you and follow along with your adventure?
So the best place to find us is at Elephant in the Room AU. Now, we have a fairly formulated process in the way that we do our Insta, but we'll probably be doing a lot more stories from New York and New Orleans about the people that we're meeting. So I'd love you to come along and follow on from that. And so at Elephant in the Room AU on both Facebook and on Instagram, best and easiest way to find us. And from there, you can click the links and connect with us through our website. And awesome. How about you? How do we find you? And how do we find this, the how and why of us?
hellomedia.team is our website, and also it's Instagram too. And from there, we've got a little link pop, which is attached to our Shopify store, and it's got all the little places to go. And yeah, awesome. Thanks, Jenni. So good to see you. So good to hang out with you. And I look forward to seeing you in a few weeks' time and talking about how you can create your message. And yeah, so reminder about that challenge. Think about what it is that you're already doing, and there's going to be a lot more in there that you don't even really realize.
Exactly. Thank you for the chat today. So much fun, everybody. Have a great time. I look forward to seeing you in a couple of weeks when I'm back, and jumping in on the chats maybe next Thursday night when I'm away.
Yes, I hope so. All right, guys. See you soon. Thanks so much.
Bye, everyone. Take care.